You've tuned in to the Beyond Hope podcast, your access to success strategies and more to help you survive and thrive through your loved one's addiction challenges while you move onward and upward with your life. Now, here's your host, Shar Jones.
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to thank you for taking the time to do this with me. I just wanted to stop and thank you because I know how busy you are, and we've been talking about this for so long, and it was just like one of those things like, we have to do this like tomorrow. So I appreciate just the flexibility to make this happen. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I was feeling the same way, and I didn't even know what the topic was, but we just haven't talked for a while. And I thought, we need to just reconnect and see what topic needs to emerge for both of our listener audiences.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I really just want to dive in, but I also want to make sure that people realize who they are in the great company of. Because Stacy, I look at you just like a self-care guru. You're a certified dietitian, but all of your credentials are amazing. But underneath that, you are such an amazing person, such an amazing human being. And I think you are hilarious, compassionate, fun, but you've had such incredible experiences. But you are just this beautiful light. And I just want to honor that. I'll give you an opportunity to talk about the details about what you do, but I'm just honored to have you here today. And so why don't you just take a second actually just to talk about what it is that you do?
Well, first of all, thank you. You're going to make me bawl my eyes out.
I just love you.
I really, really love chatting with you because I feel like we are kind of sitting in our living room, but I feel like we're just having our cup of coffee and having a chat about bigger things in life. And that's what brings me joy, is not the surface level stuff or the complaining or the talking about other people. It's the deep stuff that leads us to what we can do to make a contribution and to support ourselves first so that we can support others. And I think that's what we're here for, is to support one another, but we have to understand the basics and setting that foundation for being able to be in service. And so that's why I am drawn so much to self-care. Well, actually, I would say I was pulled into self-care. It sort of magnetized me at a time when I really needed it. And I just love sharing that message. So thank you so much for having me here today so we can chat for a little bit.
Absolutely. It's funny because when this first happened, it was obvious to me that we were, it was like this massive kind of pause, kind of stripping back the layers. But over the last few weeks, I'm losing my mind right now. And the funny thing, this energy right now is so wonky. And as I mentioned, I don't even have a bra on. I don't care. I just feel so confused about how I feel about everything. And the topic of self-care is so neglected right now. I wanted to touch on that, but also on how do we kind of honor where we're at right now, and then how do we start to think about emerging from this?
Very, very well put. And I think that probably everyone who listens to this is going to identify with feeling all of those things. I know some days I wake up super creative and I feel like I'm inspired. I love to write, so I'll write a whole bunch of things. And then some days I wake up and I realize it's 2:00 and I'm still sitting on the couch with no pants. I don't know. There's no rhyme or reason. It's totally wonky. The days are fluid and they just kind of flow. And yes, we have things we have to get done for meeting our basic needs. We have to eat. We have to sleep, even though those schedules are so off kilter. But you know what? The laundry can wait. I think we get so caught up in our shoulds and we have to do this and everyone else is doing this, so we have to do it too. And we need a little bit of grace, I think, for ourselves and for one another. And just understanding that, whoa, today might be a no pants day. I don't know what it's like for you today. How are you feeling? If your energy is high or low. And then that's where self-care comes into play, which I think you're talking about. Like, as we reemerge, what are the things we need in our self-care suitcase that we need to bring along with us? So I totally relate to what you're saying. There are days where we literally don't know what day of the week it is. And we're just doing the best we can, Shar. I really believe that the majority of people are simply doing the very best they can.
It's so true. And before, it's always been kind of a struggle. Like, I'll get to a point where I'm like, okay, I need alone time like today. How do we ask for what we need? First of all, like, how do we even figure that out? Like, what do I need right now? And then how do we ask for it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big question. And it's something that I've worked on for years. In fact, it's part of the tool that I've developed called Rate Your 8, which is part of the 8 dimensions of self-care framework. And it's actually part of the lifestyle design planner that I published. So it is part of my daily practice. It's part of my morning ritual where I check in with myself and get real honest about how well I'm supporting each area of my life. Mm-hmm. Now, it takes 20 seconds for me to say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how well, Stacy, are you doing to support your emotive dimension of self-care? How well are you doing at supporting the systemic or your physical health? And I can tell you pretty quickly, yeah, I've been not making decisions that are best for me. They might have been best at the time. Like, I've been baking some really delicious stuff, but it's not aligned with my long-term goals. So I'm cool with having some key lime pie and some yummy things because I think comfort foods do play a role, but it does not align with my long-term health goals. So that exercise helps me ask myself, what do you need right now? Well, right now I need a giant salad with fresh vegetables, So you can start to get to know yourself. And while every day might have its, some decisions are out of alignment with what you're trying to achieve, and that's totally okay. But it's over the long term that we have to really get honest with ourselves. Is that where we really want to go? So I think asking ourselves on a daily basis, Shar, is so critical. What do you need the most right now? And we have to prioritize. Now, when you talk about asking others for support, right, I think we also need to maybe even first ask them what they need, because I think that opens the door. What do you need right now? How can I support you right now? And 9 times out of 10, they'll ask you, thank you for asking me what I need and what can I do for you? So, I mean, if you're in the middle of a meltdown, obviously you may have to just say, okay, can you please help me out with this? But I think that's part of the grace that we're talking about today, is showing up for ourselves and for the people in our small circle at home that we're now seeing every day. And that creates some tension sometimes, right?
Yeah, I love that. And it's funny how you can feel so like we're confined to our home, so to speak. I mean, we're taking walks and things like that. And we're getting out, but the time that you spend by yourself so that you can kind of decompress or whatnot, we take that for granted. And I think just recognizing in that moment, okay, this is an act of self-care right now. And instead of just kind of, flying by it, it's like, okay, wait a minute. Yesterday, I went outside. I did some meditating. Stephanie, she was like, you need to get your feet on the ground. You need to feel your feet on the grass. You need to just, be with nature. And it was exactly what I needed. But rather than just going through the motions, I was like, okay, right now in this moment, this is what I'm giving to myself and this is what I needed. And just honoring that, I think that was really important for me.
Absolutely. And even if it was 5 minutes, that change in your routine is memorable. I mean, that was an intentional choice you made to do that thing that you knew would be nurturing. And isn't that true for so many things that we do? I mean, I don't know about you, but I do not love going to the gym. I mean, it's been something that consistency has not really ever been there for me. And I do have a workout buddy that he does love it. He gets excited about going, and he holds me accountable for going when the gym's open anyway. And however, when I get in there, it feels so damn good.
Right.
And when I leave there, I'm like, why do I not look forward to this? And I don't know if I'll ever answer the why, but all I know is the rewards for giving ourselves those nurturing things are just so rich. And it might in the moment feel more appealing to sit on the couch or to read a book or whatever. And sometimes we need those things, right? Not to negate the value of those things. But when we're doing that, instead of things that are leading us toward our goal, then we're kind of stealing from ourselves. And honestly, we're stealing from others, because the health benefits we get from taking care of ourselves make us stronger, more resilient, more emotionally stable. We just have so much more to give when we're well rested, well nourished, and in a state of balance. While that is a very, controversial concept, I think, of balance. But I happen to believe our bodies, physical, emotional, and everything, tend toward wanting balance, right? They're constantly working to keep our blood pressure normal and our pH, acid-base balance. Like, they're trying to come to center. We may never get there 100%, but I think we feel better when we're closer to that state of balance. And when we get there, we just have so much more to offer the world in terms of creativity and solving problems and being a good listener.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting too, just stripping down these layers right now? We've all been forced to really do that. I don't know. What are some of the lessons, I guess, for you that you've learned about yourself or about society over the last couple of months?
Oh, gosh, that is such a good question. I think I'm going to probably be unraveling those for quite some time. Yeah. I do think what's interesting to me right now is that everyone copes differently. Mm-hmm. And I have to put a big filter on the things that I put in front of my eyeballs, whether it's news media or social media, because there's a lot of intense emotions.
Yeah.
And there's criticism, there's arguing, there's anger. While one person may use humor and try to make light of a situation, another person gets offended by that. And so then they're having their moment. And I think this is totally where grace comes in, because I know a lot of these people personally where I'm just like, whoa, where did that come from? And I'm realizing that we all have different ways that we're coping. And if you even look back through the social media phases that we've gone through, right? There's like panic, and we've got to get prepared for this, and we don't know what's going on, and do we have enough peanut butter? And then there was like the funny memes, and we all were just like, okay, it was way too intense. I need to laugh. And then, then comes the news, and now it's the masks and the face coverings. And so we've gone through all these phases of truly asking ourselves, what do we need right now? What do we need to get through this time? We don't know if it's going to come back around. It very well may. But I think we're all finding out that we need a lot less, Shar, than what we thought we did in terms of stuff, in terms of even the thoughts we carry around with us and the beliefs we're carrying. We don't need quite so much stuff to find joy in our day-to-day life and to laugh and to love each other. I mean, I think that's what's interesting to me, is just we've got all these different ways that we're doing the best we can.
Yeah. I love the word grace when you brought that up. I actually looked it up on online for just the definition, and it was unmerited divine assistance given to humans for their regeneration or sanctification. That's one of the definitions.
I think it does have a lot of like spiritual and religious origin or background. And in fact, one thing that I read said it is the opposite of karma. Karma being getting what you deserve, right? We think, well, that person got what they deserve because of something that they've done. Whereas grace is the opposite of that. It's getting what you don't deserve. And maybe that is just forgiveness, I think, is kind of a word I equate with it, even though most definitions don't put that in the mix. But I really think it's just saying, you know what? I didn't quite do that the way that I hoped. I mean, how many times have you had a conversation with someone and the words just did not come out the way you intended, hurt someone's feelings, your emotions got, and it's like, I didn't want it to come out that way. Right. And so not only in that situation, do I have to give myself grace, like to say, all right, Stacy, you kind of screwed up there a little, like that wasn't your best life performance. And then asking the other person, you know, I'm really sorry that came out that way. Here's what I really intended to say. And I mean, we have to just do our best and understand there is not a such thing as perfection. And we are going to mess up a lot because we all are human and we're doing our best. We're going to say the wrong thing. We're going to, you know, respond in a way that maybe isn't even in our character. But the grace piece is like giving someone the benefit of the doubt and saying, you know what, Shar, I get that maybe you had 2 hours of sleep last night. Maybe not even saying that out loud to you, but it's like, you just know, okay, that is not, I don't think that's really what she was intending to say. And I bet there's something else going on. How many times have you said that, right? When somebody has their crazy freak out moment and you're like, okay, there's something else going on there.
Yeah, you do. You give them that grace. But it's so funny how with ourselves, we're so hard on ourselves. Yesterday I was chatting with a friend of mine that I work with, and I'm like, I'm having these moments where I'm like, who am I? Like, what am I doing with my life? These kind of moments where, you know, this feeling of just kind of, it's, I don't want to say that it's like I'm floundering, but I'm being forced to sit still in those moments and just like try to figure out what is going on. And I find myself saying, I just need peace. I keep saying that, like, I just need peace in my life. And I guess that starts within us. And then it manifests however it manifests, depending on if we're ignoring that need, what our heart needs.
Yeah, I definitely think that a lot of people are coming down from the buzz of busyness. And let me tell you, when I left my corporate job several years ago, I was used to having 2 phones all dinging in my ear all day long on back-to-back phone calls. And when I left, it took me 6 months, every bit of 6 months, before I felt comfortable being by myself in quiet. And as an introvert, that was really weird to experience, but it was unsettling to be like, okay, I know I'm supposed to be doing a bunch of stuff right now, but I don't know what that is. And that space that we have in quiet, because we're so used to giving and being busy and producing and doing all these things, that when it comes time to receive, we don't know how.
Yeah.
I actually think that's why people struggle with self-care so much, because we have not learned the art of receiving. We can't even receive compliments, a lot of us.
That's so true. That's so true. And you see people, I sense that people are depressed and feeling really down. And as you were mentioning, just not being able to accept the love that we're trying to give. And we just need to calm down and trust that everything is going to be okay. We are going to be all right. And I don't want to make light of what's going on. Obviously, there is a lot of heartache happening right now, and my heart goes out to those families. I mean, I can't imagine. A friend of mine that I work with, she just lost her grandfather, and he had been suffering with dementia for quite some time. But his wife, you know, not being able to be there for him in those final days, that's the reality of the situation for some folks. And I don't want to take away from that. I also feel like there's on the flip side, you know, it's just nuts. Feels crazy. I feel like we're in crazy town right now.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of opinions and there's a whole lot of beliefs and there's, we're going to continue, I think, to see a lot of this uneasiness in every demographic, in every financial circumstance. We're going to start to see and continue seeing this unsettling, I guess, feelings and behaviors. But here's what I think about us re-emerging, as you said, from this.
Thank you.
What comes next? I always, when I journal, and it's very therapeutic for me, I often start with the prompt, what do I want to come of this? And it starts me thinking down the path of what I have in my control, because I sure as heck can't control what anybody else does or thinks or believes, and it's futile to try. But I sure can control what I do, the choices I make. And I think we're going to have to get really creative, Shar, with how we move forward from this, from financially making ends meet. I think there's going to be families moving in together again to kind of get through this time where you'll have multi-generational families helping support each other. I think we're going to need a lot less as consumers and realize that we don't need the giant homes and 3 cars and all the stuff that we order from Amazon, like click, 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 click. So I think we're going to have to get really creative. And part of what I love about self-care, and I just launched a new course called Simplify, and it really does take us through all of these areas of our life and say, what do I need to start doing or stop doing to make this easier? And I think when we start to peel away all the layers of busyness or stuff, we see that the foundation is really the heart of where we find joy. So we're going to have to be creative with coming up with ways of being and living that still meet our basic requirements. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely feel like I want to strip down. I want to organize and get rid of things. And so every day I'm like, okay, to my husband, I'm like, okay, look around. We got to get rid of 10 things that we can give away or that we don't need anymore. And this need to simplify. I feel that right now for sure. I was listening to a podcast last night with Brene Brown. What is the name of it? She's incredible. It's called Unlocking Us. And it was Dr. Murthy that she was interviewing. It says, recognizing that our relationship with self drives all things. So paying attention to how we feel good or we don't feel good after interacting with someone. I thought that was interesting to think about that because we are so giving and we'll give our time to everyone that needs us. And stepping back and going, wait a minute, how did I feel in that interaction with that person? If we don't feel good after an interaction, maybe we need to step back and spend some time with self and figure out kind of what's going on with us before we go back out there and try again. So I don't know if you had thoughts about that.
I do. And the work of self-care has a big connection to boundaries, right? As you know, setting boundaries on how we use our time and energy and also the people that we allow into our inner circle. Now, I believe that everybody has a place somewhere in our life, but we get to decide how long we spend, the circumstances we spend with them, and all of those variables. But I also think that sometimes people show us things, they mirror things to us that is our work. Right. So whenever I encounter a situation like that where somebody really pushes a button or I feel those things, I mean, my older tendency was to just be like, well, I'm not going to forget that. I don't want to be around this person anymore. And sometimes that is the reality. Like I still will limit the time I spend with certain people who are really negative or critical. Mm-hmm. But now I'm like, okay, why this tense feeling that comes up? Why did this person make me feel that way? And often it's because we do similar things that we don't like. So I think everyone that comes into our life is our teacher, mm-hmm. and they point us to our work. But I totally get what you're saying. And I think that's where the boundaries come in deciding, because I think, and Gabby Bernstein was one that I read. I think it was The Universe Has Your Back. But she talks about some people being addicted to low vibe energy of, just being critical and negative. It can be an addiction, a form of addiction. So we have to protect our bubble, because again, if we are really highly empath type of personality and we absorb the energy of other people, we're paralyzing our ability to take care of ourselves and others too, right? So it's like, I think of some people we have to take in smaller doses than others.
I love the way that you put that. That is so true. I definitely am a feeler, as you know. So I definitely absorb the energy that's around me. And I have been having to just say, hey, I need this, giving myself permission to step away and kind of assess what's going on with me. But it's just, this has been a really interesting time. And I want to bring it back to Grace and just think about, like, what does that mean to you personally, for yourself? And I guess some tips in relationship to self-care. Like, what can people do right now to take better care of themselves?
Yeah, well, I think I can only speak to what it's meant for me personally and how I've done things differently. I'm noticing that I'm choosing not to respond a lot more. I'm choosing to, where I might have, and I'm not an argumentative person generally in public, posts. I don't believe that we change other people's minds by telling them they're wrong. I mean, even the most passionate people who are activists, I cringe sometimes, because telling people that they're dumb or wrong is never going to change their mind. If anything, you're going to put up the resistance. But I do find that I just bypass, because I'm giving them grace, realizing that might just be an outlet for them. Like, we're all looking for a release, whether it's exercise or, journaling. And some people have a release in a public way, and they're releasing their tension in a post that might be triggering for other people. And so I think for me is just allowing people to have their outlet without getting sucked into that, to me, is grace. I am allowing them to have that without feeling like I need to fix them or belittle them or criticize them for their way of seeing the world today. It may change tomorrow. And just being okay with that. Just literally just letting go of the need to write someone else's thinking or to change a reality. That to me has been just so calming to my soul, to just filter out. And if you're a person who struggles with being able to scroll past that comment, you might just need to limit how often you're actually looking at news and we hear this all the time, right? As a freelance writer, I've written a lot of articles on this for wellness companies and things like that. And I know that we hear it all the time, the digital detox and getting off of social media. I mean, I left Facebook for a year one time, and it was interesting, but I missed the connection ultimately and came back. But I do think if you are a person who just, the emotions well up when you read something, you can unfollow, unfriend, choose your circle, and choose how often, maybe once a day, is really putting a bigger filter on what you're taking in. Because we have a capacity, we have a limited capacity of our energy, both to receive and to give. So for me, that's grace. That's what grace looks like, is allowing other people to have their feelings and then giving myself more time before I respond in my personal relationships as well. Like, do I really want to respond when my emotions are high? Or do I need to sleep on this first? And I most of the time, it's always better to sleep on it and to give it some thought to see before you respond.
I love that. And even just hearing you talk like that, it's calm. It has a calming effect on me. Self-care really does kind of increase our capacity to be there for other people. So I find that when I'm in a deficit, it's a sign that I'm not doing the things that I need to do day to day to really give myself what I need. And so if I'm feeling short and irritable, which I have been lately, like I said, like the last couple of weeks, especially, I just feel, just irritated for no reason. I'm like, what is wrong with me? And that's what it is. It's been funny. Like some days I'm literally just like rolling out of bed onto the floor. And I'm like, well, while I'm down here, I may as well stretch. I mean, that's been my self-care.
Yeah.
And then I kind of like crawl to my office, which, so I've started wearing my Fitbit. And so I'm consciously, making sure that I'm getting enough steps in. But yeah, when all those kind of signs are happening for me where I'm just irritable, it's not my nature. Then I'm like, okay, something's going on here. And usually it's because I'm maxed out and I'm not giving myself the self-care I need. So my capacity is much less for the people that I care about, and just people in general, going out and about. Like, I find myself just, so like closed, and I'm like, gosh, every opportunity that I have when I see someone that I can actually interact with them, it's my neighbor or someone, our interactions are so limited. So when I do have the opportunity to connect with someone, I really want to be present for them. And so I'm working on it. But also I don't want to make it sound harder than it is. It's really just paying attention. It doesn't have to be work. It's just paying attention to what I need and giving myself more of that. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now.
And in calling attention, you made me think that, when we do experience things that are out of character for us, or those intense emotions that bubble up that we're not used to feeling, that are uncomfortable, it's not that that's wrong or bad, or we tend to put judgment on it. If we're not Pollyanna and happy all the time, we tend to judge ourselves like something's wrong. But if we can change how we're looking at that and just say, okay, what do I need right now as the question instead of the judgment? And I mean, we're kind of like tea kettles, honestly. I mean, we need to like let off the steam sometimes. And there are many, many, many ways we can do that. But recognizing it first is essential, because if you don't recognize that you're nearing your, blow point, that lack of a better descriptor, then you do explode on other people. But if you know the warning signs early enough, then you can take that walk and put your feet in the grass, or, call the friend that does allow you space to vent or journal or go for a run. I mean, okay, I'm at my max point. And like you're telling your family, I need to go sit in the car for a minute or wherever you get away to do your thing, to cry. I mean, crying is a release.
That's what I literally had to do that. I had to
yes.
I felt better afterwards, but in that moment, I'm like, what is happening?
Yes. So it's not like we have to allow it all. Like we started out today talking about how some days we're really productive and on task with the long-term vision we have for our lives. And some days we're like, nope, not going to do it. So we have to allow it all.
We do. And I love this conversation, unscripted, which is my favorite, and just kind of moving through the topics as we felt that we needed to. And I want people to know how to find you. So if you wouldn't mind just sharing with folks where they can find you and how you can be of service to them.
Yeah. So my company is called Living Up with 2 P's. And I offer online courses all related to self-care. I do some personal coaching. And then I also have a private membership group where especially introverts like myself like to hang out and, just kind of compare notes and get the accountability to be practicing self-care. So livingup.com is where you can find me. And I would love to connect with you. I do offer some I call them whiteboard sessions, where if you have something that you're trying to go deal with or come up with some creative solutions for, we literally can sit down with a whiteboard and I can help brainstorm some ways to work through that particular snag, because Lord knows I've had my fair share of snags to work through.
I love that. I think we all do. And thank you so much for being here. And I want to stay connected. So let's do a follow-up and maybe dive a little bit deeper into some of these things, because we had talked a little bit about maybe just picking one of those 8 dimensions and kind of stripping them down a little bit more. So I would love to do that.
Yeah,
if you're interested.
I'm game for all of it. You know that.
I know. Well, I'm sending you so much love. Thank you for being here. I may or may not go put a bra on, some pants on, and start.
Unnecessary.
Okay. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in and for helping me to connect with other moms of addicts or loved ones who are struggling with addiction in their lives. If you have questions for me, comments, suggestions on future show content, or perhaps there's a specific topic that you would like to hear from an expert in the field, I would love to hear from you. I am also interested in sharing your voice. So if you have messages of hope or personal stories that you think would resonate with our listeners, please send me an email. You can type me out a message, or you can include an attachment to an audio clip with your voice. You can send that to shar@beyondhoperadio.com. And with that, thank you again, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to Beyond Hope. For show notes and more, head on over to beyondhoperadio.com.
A huge thank you to recoveryinnovators.com and James Healy. Thank you so much for putting up with me and for helping me to produce and launch the show. I couldn't have done it without you. You are so awesome. And to anybody else who has been considering working with James, highly recommend him. Please go over to his website and check it out, recoveryinnovators.com.